A guilty verdict in the Canadian honor murderers trial that we've been following. 3 members of a family of Afghan immigrants have been convicted. They killed 4 female relatives for bringing shame to their family. The bodies were found in a canal. Irshad Manji is the director of the Moral Courage Project at New York University. She's also the author of this book, which is called, oh, you guys have it right there on the screen, Allah, Liberty, and Love. Courage to Reconcile Faith and Freedom. It's nice to have her with us with the panel.
Thank you, Soledad.
I put you next to Roland. I know you guys know it.
Starting me off on the right note, right?
Kidding. This is a serious story, so I want to start with this sense to me that it's this clash of cultures, really. Some people have said, well, this is really an example of domestic violence, not honor killings. What's the difference?
Well, you know, moderate Muslims, who these days are not very moderate at all, suggest that it is only domestic violence, which is bad enough. But the reality is that honor murders are in fact usually premeditated and plotted, and that means that it's not just an outburst of killing, it is something that is schemed. Often as well, by the way, with the buy-in of women in the family, because this is part and parcel of a cultural tradition called honor, which is a tribal tradition that emphasizes the family or the tribe or the community over the individual.
Is it cultural or is it religious?
Yeah, it's a great question, Soledad. And you know what? Muslims themselves often confuse culture with religion. This thing, honor killing, is not Islamic. I say this as a faithful Muslim. It is, however, a problem within Islam because of how Muslims often confuse culture and religion. So you can't blame non-Muslims for scratching their heads and wondering what the hell's going on.
It seemed to me like one of the reasons that there was a conviction in this case was because of those wiretaps, which were amazing. I'm going to read you a little chunk which the prosecutor would play. And one said, "This is what a daughter should be. Would a daughter be such a whore?" This is in the wake of the death.
This is the father.
Exactly.
Right.
It was really what convicted the father.
Well, the wiretap conversations, the, sort of independent witnesses, the Google searches, thank goodness that we've got those as records, the cell phone records. It was very clear, absolutely no questions for the judge, and it was unanimous among the jury that the evidence was there. And you know what I found really abominable, I mean, of so much that is, that the son, who was also involved in these killings, sort of pleaded that it was merely an accident, kind of like, and I'm sorry to sound, too topical here, but almost like the Italian cruise liner captain who sort of tripped into the water. This son said that he kind of bumped the car of the girls, and they, fell into the water.
I was stunned to see fathers involved 91% by some statistics. Fathers involved, I think it's somewhere between 90 to 100% of the time when you're looking at a certain age group.
Yeah, and this is something that people really have to wrap their heads around, and this is one of the reasons that the girls fell through the social service system.
What do you mean?
Is that, well, in Canada, as in most democratic societies, when death threats are uttered against children, the parents have to be told. Well, in this case, it was the parents who had made these threats against the children. So
social services didn't really know how to handle it.
Didn't know how to handle it, and that's because it's a relatively new phenomenon, right? So this is why I keep saying to non-Muslims is that we've really got to wrap our heads around sort of the novelty, the newness of this crime. And the fact is, it is on the rise in Western societies because of increased, very legal Muslim immigration. But it's Muslims who have to learn to separate culture and religion. If we don't, then Islam will continue to get the bad name that it gets.
Irshad, first of all, thank you for all you do. This is amazing work. What can other women do, and men, I think, that really want to speak out on this? What can we do to help?
Well, first and foremost, we all have to understand that culture should be spoken up against when there are malignant aspects in it. We live in a multicultural society, and many big-hearted, open-minded people say, well, that's their culture and it's sacred, and, I have nothing to do with it. But the reality is, culture is human-made. It is not God-given. Therefore, there is nothing sacred about culture and nothing sacrilegious about trying to reform the most malignant aspects of it.
Does this case set a precedent?
It does in many ways. I mean, first of all, there has never been such a case in Canada, and I would argue actually in many parts of the world, Western world, where you've had half a family wiped out by the parents, number one. But number two, very interesting, a white male judge didn't come down with this verdict. In fact, it was a 12-member jury. And what that really says is that ordinary people have the right and the responsibility to call it out where it exists.
Right, Irshad, thank you very much for joining us. We want to remind everybody, Irshad Manji's new book is called Allah, Liberty, and Love. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.